Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at all of the Criterion Savage weapons. Now, if you watched my patch note video or read the title of it and subsequently commented and or liked or disliked it, you'll know that we knew that the rewards that they added to Criterion were indeed exclusive to Savage and were in the form of upgraded tombstone weapons. So you have to, and I'm going to lay this whole thing out for you, you have to take your weekly cap tomes. You need to take the tombstone from either P10 or from normal mode, X number of times, four times now, I think. Then you need to take the Robberant from P11, and then you need to combine all those into a weapon and make a 660 weapon, and then you need to go beat Criterion Savage to get another upgrade mat to get the glowy version of it. On paper, it's kind of a pain, and it's kind of a piece of feedback I have that maybe they shouldn't do it precisely this way, but it does act as a mini kind of ultimate weapon. And so I'm going to look at all of them, judge all of them, and talk a little bit about the reward structure for this, plus what I think they actually still need to do. Because I said that's not enough, and I agree that it's still not enough. It doesn't actually tackle the key problem that I think Criterion as a whole has. So let's at least see if these Savage pseudo-ultimate weapons, essentially, are well enough worth it. So in order to even see this option, you need to be Criterion normal. And then you get the elevated Esther. This is from the manuscript, the Alo Alo manuscript. You spend that over at the Criterion vendor in Old Charlian. And then you could take the upgraded weapons here next to the Tombstone vendor at Caldine, and you'll see the elevated Esther augmentation. So we have everything one at a time. I know that these aren't going to look as good as they would on the actual character. The try-on window never looks as good as the actual character. That being said, we do have some interesting things. So first of all, we've got this paladin weapon, and I like the, so here's the thing. I like this glow on it, and I don't know if it's a bug with the try-on window, but it would be strange. Phone, I'm trying to record right now. It's not the time. I'm turning you off for the time being. I'll get back to you later. Hey, stop it. My phone wants to interrupt my recording. I wish the glow was spinning in this particular case. And with some of the other weapons, I know the glows do actually spin. So this looks okay, but this is not the best first impression of just having the very static looking swirl around the sword. Still looks nice, however, but not my personal cup of tea. Paladin shield. I think the glow sitting still on the shield looks a little bit better, but again, I think that's also just complemented by the fact that the shield actually already looks pretty good. So it just complements a few of the smaller parts on it. You can actually see some of the swirls moving on this one. I think a little bit more. I can see this little particle right here kind of floating off into the distance. So it's like rotating very, very slowly. Now, before I go any further, it is worth mentioning that these do die. And I guess it would be worth looking at the die preview real quick of just the shield, just so I can get an idea of what the die actually changes. So I'll go for the classic. I'll go for that. Okay, so you're really just dyeing the kind of, I guess the part that's under the glowy part, the center part, the accent, the highlighted part. And it does look good. I mean, again, I think this is more just complimenting the fact that the shield looks really good, and the glow is just kind of on top of that. But, okay, first Paladin done. Now the Warrior Axe, I know I like. I know I like that, because I already like the Warrior Axe, and this glow, like I said, the glows are capable of moving, and in this one, it takes what is already like a buzzsaw-looking weapon and gives it a buzzsaw-looking glow. See, now that is a cool glow. Having the red fire, it's like, and you can see it's almost like it's grinding upon itself, because it's got like the little sparks that fly off here and again in the few different spots. So that one, that's a top-tier Warrior Glam. Tough, because there are a lot of already very good Warrior Glams, but that is a top tier one. I'm not going to look at the die for every single one of them. Dark Knight Sword. This is one I bet looks better outside of the try-on window. The feather effects kind of coming off of it and the darkness coming off of it are okay. But again, there's so many really good Dark Knight swords that this one's only, in my opinion, okay because the base sword is okay. So it just makes the base sword a little cooler. It's weird. It almost feels like the longer it's out, the better it looks at certain points. I think it's because of the way the glow moves at certain points, it just kind of looks cooler, if that makes sense. Like just some of the, at some points in time, the glow is in a location that I think is, I guess it looks better on the sword. But all the same, not a personal favorite. There's just so many other Dark Knight swords that I like so very much that one doesn't really end up near the top of the list. Gunbreaker kind of too. I actually struggle with Gunbreaker because the only Gunbreaker, there's only like 2 or 3 Gunbreaker weapons I really like. And this is, again, a decent base weapon, but this glow probably, again, looks better outside of the try-on window. Almost all glows in the game do. So, again, this is one of those, it's okay, made a little bit better, but not, wow, I need to have that. So, that's fine. That's it for the tank weapon. So, let's go on to the melee DPS. You got Dragoon. So I actually really like this glow, but I'm not a fan of the base model of the weapon. It's not that bad, but this is the kind of glow that I would prefer to have, something that feels more accentuated. I also like that it kind of flows from the back to the front. You can see the tips actually have their own effects, but you have this kind of like wind stream that goes from the back of the sword, flows through the kind of cloth all the way to the front. So that's a good looking one. I would be pleased with that. At the very least. Then we have Reaper. This is the best looking one. In my opinion, this is the best looking one. The Reaper Scythe. Yeah, it's already a pretty cool looking model. And on top of that, it just gets this eerie, bloody glow at the tip. It's, again, this is when you have to see outside the try-on window, because this looks a lot better when you see it on a player character than when you see it here. But this is one of the edgier, thematically cool-looking ones. I do actually want to see the dye preview real quick, because I don't know how this dies. It actually dies pretty well. So it dies like the darker ends of it and leaves the lighter ends. What's crazy to think is what this will look like with dual dye channels next expansion. That's something you have to start considering when you look at some of these glams now, because the other dye channel is probably the white part on this one. I mean, it could be another part, but considering it's like the blade and the darker accents here that get dyed, I think this is going to be another really, really good looking one when the time comes. Of course, you have the traditional jet black, although I'd probably go with something like a darker, a lighter red or something like that. But that's, in my opinion, one of the better looking ones. That one's really cool. Monk suffers from having way too many good weapons. I actually really like weapons that are close to the fist. They're really small and tiny gauntlets. They just kind of wrap around the hand. But these don't really do it for me compared to a lot of the other ones that we have. These kind of remind me, honestly, of the end of the Shadowbringer's relic, but with a little bit more armor on them. And the glow isn't too impressive. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, you have Sphere, you have the top weapon. I mean, honestly, a lot of the ultimate weapons and a lot of the savage weapons for Monk look really, really good. So it's kind of a struggle whenever for me at least, when they add new ones. But this one's okay. It's got the gauntlet that goes all the way to the back, and the glow is just this kind of like wing effect that you actually have on the fist. Plus, I guess, brass knuckles made of these like flowery spikes on the end. Next, we have Samurai. This is another kind of just okay looking one. It's a decent looking weapon that just kind of has this bloody glow along the end of it. For me, this is one of those samurai swords that honestly, I enjoy the hilt. You see, you have like a whole second sword with this weapon, and you have the actual sheath for the weapon itself. So for me, this is one of those, this part looks cool, and I wish this part was glowy, versus this part, which is fine, but not that impressive, even if it will look better outside of the window. So that one's, again, just kind of an okay for me. Now, the Ninja Daggers, I'm actually a huge fan of the Ninja Daggers when they were first released, these as tome weapons. So these are just a little bit better. The text on it, the text on it kind of lights up, and you have the kind of flowery spinning effect on the handle, plus the glow. This is one of those that's definitely up there on my list, but it helps that I really like the kind of, I call them the Fred Flintstone weapons. I'm a fan of the Fred Flintstone daggers in the first place, that kind of rustic old feel that they have, plus with the inscription on them. So that one gets a thumbs up from me. Bard. Now, I haven't played Bard in a hot minute. I actually had forgotten what the Bard tome weapon looked like as a whole. So much so that when I saw this, I kind of forgot there was even a blue bird. I think it's called the Bluebird's Nest. Yeah. This one looks pretty good, actually, and I actually really like the effect of the bird at the top now singing. Just the little musical notes that kind of flow out. You have the string of musical notes. You have the occasional music note that pops out there as well. So I actually like this weapon quite a bit, and I know the lighting is going to look even better outside the try-on window. So the fact that I like it here tells me I'd like it even more. That one's another kind of top contender for me for these weapons. Then we have the gun. This gun, I actually really do like it. I like the base model itself before it's glowing, and then when you pull it out, bam, the whole thing lights up. It gets the kind of barrel at the end. It's got that whole I'm gonna fire lasers at you kind of look for it. So that one's really solid. It probably looks better on a taller race, to be fair, though, because for me it looks kind of like not a pea shooter, but it looks like a toy in my hands. That being said, I think this is another kind of winner in the model department. This to me screams more ultimate style glow than a lot of the other ones do. And it does have the kind of slight swirl. You can still see some of the effects slowly moving around. The ammo case, I'm not really wild about, but I wish they would, again, same with the samurai sheaths. I wish they would kind of pay some attention to these bits, because these bits do make a difference. And it's kind of weird when the weapon is lighting up like this and the kind of thing that it comes with is mismatched and isn't. So for me, that's a little nitpick, but the weapon itself, the part that I pay the most attention to, that one here is quite good. Dancer, I don't like the Dancer, like, actual tombstone weapon. It's like a sword that you just kind of stick your fingers in between. Like, I like that at least it doesn't look like a lot of other Dancer weapons. I think that's a big problem with Dancer weapons, is a lot of them look samey. The glow itself is really nice, though. Like, the actual sparkles on it are very pronounced. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but like the sparkles on it are enormous, and they just kind of like blow up in your face like repeatedly. That being said, I'm just not a fan of the base models. This is a win on the glow and not very interested in the base model itself. Then we have the Black Mage weapon. This is one of my favorite tome weapons, the lantern, and it's only made better. I mean, it's a lantern that lights up with like fireflies and just glowing all around that bit. This is just a straight up win. There's no way. Like this for me, again, I have a lot of Black Mage weapons, but I am struggling to like debate whether or not I want to grab this as the one that I want to spend my manuscript on, because that to me is just a top tier. Now, I do want to actually know about the dye for this one, because it can't dye the glow. There's almost no chance it dyes the glow, but this is one of those that probably looks a lot better if you dye it somewhat closer to like this. Like, yeah, this looks pretty good. This is metallic blue. I think it complements it a little bit more. And if you change the dye, like the yellow, what does the yellow even look like? Yeah, because you can see it's just kind of changing the, it's really hard to actually see because this like kind of overrides a lot of them. So you really got to look like down here to see what changes. And this part doesn't really change as much as the parts up here on the back of it. So let me put it away real quick so you can get a better look. Yeah, so you can see like it does change, but the glow is so strong that it's actually kind of hard to see the change in color. Again, you kind of get it more down here than anything else. So even just with the base dye, it's good. This is like another, you know, just go with the classic jet black or like a metallic blue or something. For me, that's a straight W. It's going to be hard for me to resist just grabbing that one. Then we have the books. Now, I'm not a big book guy. This one I actually kind of like the glow for it. Let me look at the base model, though. Let me get a full understanding of what I'm looking at. Okay, and then sheath. Okay, and let me see. I got to see it from the other side, too. Okay, yeah. So this part's the part that I always have a hard time judging, is the actual inside of the book. This is a very subtle glow. It works. It takes the kind of gemstone-looking part and just makes it glow, which I think is a kind of natural thing. It's not one of those like ultimate feeling glows. It's one of those that's neat if you like this, but for me there's only like 2 or 3 good summoner books in the game, and this is just kind of like another okay one for me. Not crazy impressed, but not that disappointed. Then we have the red mage weapon. The banana sword is like the glow is really good on the banana sword and the banana in the back. It's just it's just the weapon. So like it's just the weapon itself just so does not do it for me. I just can't take this weapon seriously in the slightest. But the glow is cool. I like the twin flames kind of dancing around the focus in the back and around the hilt. Again, I just can't take the weapon seriously at all. Let me at least look at the dyes. Maybe the dyes will make it better. The shape of it doesn't help either. And yeah, I mean, that helps. At least it's not, it doesn't have to be a banana sword. I suppose if you found the right color for it, which I'm not going to be an expert in, you could probably, I mean, it definitely looks better when it's not its natural color, in my opinion. But I still am not like, I'm not crazy about it. But if anything, I'd want to keep it as the base color because banana sword. Moving on to caster, or healers, sorry. We have the white mage one. The white mage one's really neat, actually. So you can see this is what it looks like sheathed. And then when it goes into the glow, not only does it get this effect, but the star lights up. Look at the star. They made sure the star lights up. It's a really good looking one. I really like the base model for this. And this, again, is one of those, it's just better now. So this one's a W for me as well. White mage and black mage both coming out pretty good on the other ends of this. Helps that they have really good base weapons. I think that's kind of the key here. I really need to like the base weapon. Sometimes a glow can save a weapon. Sometimes the base weapon is just not good enough. This one, that gets a thumbs up from me. So that's up there in my list. Scholar book, you know how I felt about the summoner book. I'm probably not going to feel too crazy about this either. Yeah, I just don't like that. Like, I already don't like that. So then when this part comes out, it's one of those, oh, but the color palette, all right, wait, hold on, though. The color palette on the inside saves it. Never mind, hold on. Yeah, all the stones light, okay, never, so this is one of those ugly on the outside, beautiful on the inside. Yeah, that's big time saved by the actual inside of this weapon, which is not something I really thought I would say. The palette and all the glow on the inside, yeah, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. So, okay, that's actually a pretty good weapon. I think my favorite book is still the one that's see-through on one side, but not, I think it's not see-through on the other side. I think that's still my favorite one because the visual, like the way it messes with my brain when I swap through it, gets me really bad. But this is actually a pretty good scholar weapon. I actually kind of like that. Then we have the Astro Globe. That's a big time favorite. So I actually think this is one of the better looking base Astro Globes. Nothing too fancy. That glow, it's just like you literally have a galaxy in your hand. Just straight up glowy orb, nice glow, good effect. Solid base model. You can see it goes without the glow to the glow. I like the little spin. Look at the little glow spin that it does. Whoop. I like the little effect that it does. You see that? Whoop. As it kind of whips into like function. It's got this like glow that's almost like a ring around it initially upon unsheathing it. So I actually really like that. Which part dies? Let's find out. Oh, wow. That looks really good with... Oh, yeah, that's... I like that. That looks good with a lot of different die. I'm just clicking around, too. Yeah, that's a really good one. Even with some of the colors I wouldn't normally like. Just a really, really good glow. Okay, that one definitely gets points. The Astro weapon is thumbs up as well. I really like the base Sage weapon, so I'm hoping I like these. And yeah, these are pretty good. So these are the Fairy Wing ones, which are already some of my favorites. That being said, the glow makes it a little bit better. There's not really much else to say about that. I do want to know how they die, though, because since I like these... Yeah, they don't really die super good in my opinion. They die okay. I kind of just like the base color the most, the default, in my opinion. But yeah, I like these and the glow is pretty good on them. So some of a decent Sage weapon. And finally, the Blue Mage weapon. So a lot of people have been really confused why this is here. Fun little known fact about all these weapons. These are all contest winners. Every single one of these was part of a design contest several years back, and there was one kind of serious winner and one kind of joke winner. I had thought some of these were winners. I didn't realize all of them were winners, so this was equally as confusing to me at first. The Umbrella, also a contest design winner from the same contest. So that's essentially why the Blue Mage weapon is in here. It's kind of an insult because Blue Mage can't do variant in Criterion. And not just now, they're already excluded if you go and try to do it in the VNC. It warns you that limited jobs can't do VNC content, but it's still in here. It's the Umbrella and it glows. It's got a watery glow for all those what's the name, for all those water cannons, those aqua cannons that you're going to be spamming. But hey, if you don't know what else to get, you can always get a nice glowy Blue Mage Umbrella from Criterion Savage. So on top of that, I think you can still get materia or a housing item from the other vendor, but this is where they went for the Criterion Savage rewards. Now, I mocked this because it's, again, not really what the majority of feedback was. The feedback was kind of twofold, that Criterion itself doesn't have any sort of item level functioning rewards, and that Criterion Savage essentially had almost nothing at all except for a housing item. So they tackled the Criterion Savage one, which I actually think may have been the louder of the pieces of feedback. It certainly was the more mocked aspect of Criterion itself. I think the more important aspect is that Criterion itself, the normal mode Criterion, should have some means of upgrading item level. I think they've kind of hit the nail on the head with upgrading. I think Tombstone upgrade mats are probably the safest thing to add to that. If you think about the general timing of Criterion, 2 of our 3 Criterions this expansion came out on even-numbered patches. And as such, they would have been 8 weeks after we started the Savage tier. It's the perfect time, in my opinion, to add some other method of earning weekly Tombstone upgrades ahead of the potential ultimates that could be coming later, or any just the ability to gear more jobs. We're about to have 2 more jobs even, and having another method of obtaining Tombstone upgrade mats for people who wish to multi-job in any capacity, I think is healthier for the game without needing to do a whole lot of heavy lifting on the rewards at all. Now, I'm still worried that's not necessarily enough. And there's been a lot of discussion in recent days about what the right route is, because a lot of people who do Ultimate have expressed they wouldn't necessarily be thrilled about having to do Criterion to get ready for Ultimate. So adding some sort of unique BIS that comes from it has been kind of like a back and forth conversation between a lot of endgame people. And in case you're wondering about these weapons potentially being BIS, they actually changed the stats on all of these weapons to match the Savage weapon stats. So it's not like you would have a potential BIS here that you couldn't get from doing the 4th fight of the raid tier. These are literally the same stats across the board. They just have that glow that's more indicative of Ultimate. But I do think they need that kind of low man added gearing method, because it's not just about people who want to gear multiple jobs. It's about getting people into content that they might otherwise be nervous about doing or may not really feel like they have enough of a reason to do. And if you give people those sort of added incentives, that goes a long way. And also, there might be people who are nervous about joining 8-man Savage content, but they're kind of more comfortable with 4-man Savage. So it's about just trying to open it up to as many interests as you possibly can without kind of overburdening the expectation on what it's going to bring. Because Criterion fights are fantastic. You don't need a lot of item level to do the base Criterion. It's the same exact item level you would need. Just buy like a full set of crafted gear. Same thing you would do at the start of a new Savage tier coming out. You could do that, but Criterion's weeks later, so you have even more gear than that. So that bare minimum makes it so someone can hop in if they're kind of getting in later, but also somebody who's even done any sort of like Tombstone capping, and even if they've just beaten like the first fight in Savage or whatever, they can go in, and it's still reasonable that they'll have an easier time than they would have otherwise. So there's a lot of really good positives about Criterion. It's something I'm glad to see they are committed to continuing in 7.x, and I think they've taken a small good step here, but it's just not hitting the core problem that it needs to hit. And so I hope that they decide to tackle that next. That's my feedback on the rewards for Criterion and Criterion Savage. I also think Variant needs some sort of roulette. I think it's a huge waste of assets and resources to do those 12 times, and then most people just abandon them because they're, at best, they maybe go back in and try to get more of the rewards to sell them on the market board. But that's it. I think it's a waste. I think they should also have some sort of roulette for Variant. Maybe it just maybe the NPC picks the path and your path is preset and you could just go that way if you go through the roulette specifically. I think that's a reasonable, but that's not something that's easy. That needs to be developed out and considered, and that does take time. So I wouldn't expect that to just be like, oh, they flipped a switch and did it. So not that arrogant. But yeah, so that's my feedback on Variant Criterion in terms of reward structure. Glad to see they're continuing it going into the next expansion, but they cannot blunder on the rewards for a whole nother expansion. So they really need to listen to what everyone is saying, get that feedback, and get to it and make sure that first Variant and Criterion in 7.x is a good one. Very important. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this video. Let me know which of the weapons was your favorite and how you feel about the reward structure for Variant and Criterion going into 7.x. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. We got a bunch of Variant Criterion related videos coming up in the next few days, so be on the lookout for all of those. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.